Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast, where real students are doing real deals in the world of multifamily real estate. I'm Vince Gethings, the owner of the Wheelwell Profits Academy. Listen in as we dive into the journeys of driven individuals who are turning their dreams into reality. These people are just like you, taking action and making things happen. If you enjoy the show, please like, subscribe, and if you're ready to take action, check us out at wheelwellprofits.com to learn more about our incredible community. Let's get started.
This is Movers and Shakers, where we interview the upcoming generation of make it happen multifamily investors to share their story.
Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast. My name is Gino Barbaro, co-founder of Jake and Gino, multifamily investor, educator, father, mentor, and I'm joined by my co-host, Joshua Ryan Rusin, the community director of Jake and Gino. Josh, how are you doing today, bro?
Gino, still riding on a high from a buy right boot camp last weekend, man. It is so incredibly powerful getting like-minded people together, learning from the same systems and tools, some epic masterminding, learning, and really relationship building. So I'm still riding that wave. How about yourself, my friend?
I'm doing good. I didn't want to open up by sharing a little story, but I just have to because it's just really important because I think the guest that's on has been part of Jake and Gino for a while, and it took him a little while to get a deal. And I think one of the reasons why he got the deal was that accountability piece. So I have a relative, Josh, and he's starting a new venture, and he's going out, and he's selling real estate. And he gets a lead, and he says to himself, I really don't want to go. I don't want to go to this lead. But the person who sent me the lead, I really value and treasure him. So I'll go take that lead because I don't want to disappoint him. And it just struck me once again that we're more willing to do things for other people than we are for ourselves. I just sat there and said, wow, that accountability is just amazing. Sometimes when you don't want to call that broker, sometimes when you don't want to underwrite that deal, sometimes when you don't want to do the property tour, sometimes when you just don't want to do that extra effort, but you have somebody looking over your shoulder and saying, you know what, I'm here. And you'll do it for that person. It just moved me. And I said to myself, that's why our community is so successful, because we have people who hold each other accountable, whether it's the coaching staff, whether it's the Monday lessons, whether it's these boot camps, whether it's myself. People will do things because my wife told them to do it. Why are you listening to my wife? But it's the truth. It's that accountability piece. So it was just moving. And I think it's going to be touching. And we're going to hear Jesse's story in a few minutes. But don't underestimate accountability, everybody out there. You're more willing to do stuff for other people than you are for yourselves. So think about that as you move on your journey in real estate.
Yeah, Gino, listen, I got to piggyback on that before we introduce today's guest. It's easy to do things when you're motivated. The difference is when you're not motivated, that's what makes champion. Right?
Yes.
That's when you pull yourself up and make it happen. All right, let's get into today's guest. Today we have Jesse Dickens. A little bit about Jesse. So he's the director of operations at a cardiovascular imaging center in Denver, Colorado, providing medical care for rural communities who would otherwise be hard-pressed to access their healthcare they need. In 2018, he got involved in passive fix and flips investing, getting his feet wet in transactional real estate. Now, December of 2019, he joined the Jake and Gino community and made the leap into multifamily. Working in Colorado Springs and Tucson, Arizona primarily, he has placed his efforts on building up networks and making offers on deals in those markets. In December of 2020, he closed on his first multifamily deal, a 24-unit in Tucson. After a few months of repositioning and getting a taste of what asset management is like, he and his teams are about to get back into acquisition mode and begin to scale up. With that said, welcome to the show, Jesse.
Glad to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's kind of bring it back. How did you get into your career into cardiovascular imaging? Why did real estate pop in? Why fix and flips, and then why eventually multifamily?
So it's a pretty long story, but the abbreviated version is I was riding a tricycle. I was pedicabbing, if you guys know what that is, the little taxi carts in downtown Denver for about 5 years, and I had met my wife and realized that things were getting and kind of realized that wasn't going to be a great family for me. So I had a degree in music business and wasn't going anywhere with that, and knew I wanted to going to go back to school. I was going to do something in healthcare. So I landed on medical imaging, and when I saw a scan of the heart, I said, that's what I want to do. So I found out the program that was offering the school that was offering a program in that, and just jumped right in. And the transition into real estate really started from the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read that book and it completely changed my perception on life in general. And I just kind of knew that the way that I had approached everything backwards. So it started a whole new journey of education and landed on bigger pockets, and really got into just diving into education as much as I could. And that's how I ended up finding you guys, and it started the journey into multifamily.
What problems were you experiencing before you joined Jake and Gino investing in real estate?
So I completely fell into analysis paralysis, and I would hear people talk about analysis paralysis, and I knew that that was me, but I could not break out of it. I was looking at deals, I was going to property tours, I was looking more at the fix and flip side, but I was just terrified to actually jump in and take a risk. And what really shifted that for me was I had a why. I knew that I wanted to have a family, but it was really more of a hypothetical thing. And when my son was born and I had a tangible 7-pound, 7-ounce why in my hands, I just knew that I really had to do something. I couldn't sit on the sidelines. And within 2 months of that, I joined Jake and Gino.
So you just proved my theory. You'll do more for others than you will for yourself.
Absolutely.
But so expand upon that. You know, you're in medical imaging. Why multifamily though? What are the benefits of multifamily? What are you looking for? Because you could do that in fix and flip. I think that's an inferior model. It's an inferior vehicle. What really attracted you to multifamily?
Well, the idea of wealth creation and building equity and being able to create systems in place to build your net worth ultimately I knew that the rental side of things was the way to do that, as opposed to, and I'd invested passively in a couple flips just to kind of get my feet wet and see what transactions were like. And I just knew that I didn't really have the stomach to be a flipper. And I did one flip on my own, and it turned out okay, but had a lot of sleepless nights. And I just knew that it didn't fit for me. You know, I kind of had to just trust my intuition on that. And through going to some meetups and talking to some people that were already in the Jake and Gino community, I realized that it wasn't. See, I had looked at multifamily as this end goal. Once you're a seasoned investor and you've been in the game for 5-10 years, then you can look at apartment complexes. I didn't think someone that was relatively had the bandwidth or the ability to do that. I had these limiting beliefs that just dominated me, and I think had been really in place for a long time. And I think a big part of the process for me was discovering what those were and just shattering them.
So I'm writing notes down here, but what other mistakes did you make in the beginning? You'd say you had limiting beliefs. You thought you had to be a seasoned investor. What else?
I think I really wanted to cast a wide net and just see what I could bring in. So when I first started getting into multifamily, I had like 6 markets that were really interesting to me. I probably had more, and I was like, I'll narrow it down to just 6. And through some advice from my coaches, they kind of said, let's get laser focused and really lock in on 2 markets that you can get familiar with. You can build relationships with the brokers there, property managers. You can really get to know. One of them was out of state, so I really wanted to get a feel for a city that I didn't know that well and understand the neighborhoods and the path of progress. So I think I spent a lot of time in the beginning really casting a wide net and trying to I didn't want to miss out on opportunities. But by doing that, I wasn't getting really strong in the markets that I was in, and it delayed my growth.
So can you describe that frustration? What were those frustrations? What did it feel like before you joined the Jake and Gino community? Because you're looking at 6 markets, you're not focused, you're probably not getting any brokers calling you back. You probably don't have the expertise of the market. What were those frustrations?
I thought about just giving up. I would get so frustrated with the process and just felt like I would listen to podcasts and hear about these success stories. Would be sitting there saying, "What? Like, I'm doing all this stuff. Why am I not seeing any results?" And I realized that there's a difference between activity and action. And I was doing all this activity. I was trying to network. I was, looking at different asset classes. I was looking at different strategies. I was looking at flipping, wholesaling, multifamily. I was like, maybe I could get into mobile home parks. I would hear something that sounded interesting and I'd start to, I've got shiny object syndrome, and I see something that looks good and sounds good, or I see someone that's doing something and I want to get involved in that. And I wasn't really learning it, trying to master my craft in one specific thing. So when that happens, I think I get close to just shutting down and saying, maybe this isn't for me. I've got a stable job. I've got a stable career. Maybe I could just do this for the next 30 years and ride it out and be okay. Even though ultimately I know that's not really what my goal and my passion is. So I think consistency has been the key of fighting that that kind of emotional roller coaster.
And what was the difference once you joined the community?
I mean, it was night and day. Having some coaches to really set that accountability that you were talking about earlier, and hop on a call and really narrow down what the focus is going to be, what the strategy is going to be. The accountability pod. Huge shout out to the members of my accountability pod. And we would just keep each other on track, and we're all new to this, but we were able to build each other up and keep each other going. So we've created something kind of similar to that with the underwriting pod, and just students getting together and working on deals, and you don't have to be an expert to come and join us and present on a deal, and we're just learning and growing together. And I think I've realized that the stuff that we can do together is so much more than we could do alone, and the power of partnership. We'll talk about the deal here in a second, but I have 6 partners on the deal, and I've only met one of them in person. All of it has been through weekly Zoom calls and just the power of networking.
So I love that. I want to reiterate that to everybody. What Jesse's talking about inside the community, we have an underwriting pod that students are holding, that they get on every 2 weeks and go through deals and underwrite the deals. That's one accountability touch point. Then Jesse's on an accountability pod, which is really cool. Usually these little accountability pods are 4 or 5 people getting on monthly and masterminding within the community. Then we have a Toastmasters, which is every weekly. So we practice our skills on discussing and talking in front of people and being able to raise capital and what skills you need to be a public speaker, right? And then we have the weekly lessons, which is another one. Every Monday, Jake and I get on and do weekly lessons. And then we have an accountability coach and a deal expert coach. And then we have the boot camps. All of these touch points is what you need to make yourself successful, because we don't lack motivation. We lack clarity. And when you get on these calls, you're going to be clear. You're going to say to yourself, I'm not the only one out there that's struggling and looking at that kind of stuff. And it's really important to surround yourself with like-minded people. And I think, Jesse, would you say that's one of the differences as well? Just surrounding yourself with people who are looking at multifamily and who have goals and who are not just looking for the W-2 lifestyle.
Absolutely. I think being around like-minded individuals have been such a huge piece of it. And I've connected with so many people within the community, people that have really become even more than business associates or, potential partners, developed real friendships with some of these people because we have our life goals are very much aligned, and I think that pretty much everyone that I've met in the community, they don't just want to build up a net worth and just be able to buy fancy cars and do whatever. They really want to do more for their community. Their why is so much deeper than just stepping away from their job. They want to be with their families in a way that, their families weren't able to be there with them, or whatever it may be. And that driving force is really what brings us together. People from all different walks of life in all different markets across the country, even across the world. I mean, there's members from out of the country, and we hop on Zoom calls and I feel like I know these people, and then their wives will walk by on camera and I get to know them. And it's amazing. And when I first got into real estate, I really assumed that it was going to be more of a cutthroat kind of atmosphere. And I'm sure there's a lot of that out there, but I've never witnessed that within the Jake and Gino community. I'm just really, really glad that I get to be a part of that.
When did you realize, is there a story or is there like an inflection point when you realize, hey, I can do this?
I don't know if there was a specific moment when that really happened. I remember during one of the accountability pods, I ended up linking up with Anna and Fernando, who also live in Denver. We live about 15 minutes apart, and we really kind of realized that there's a good synergy between us, and that we're very interested in some of the same markets. And I just remember having a call with them after our accountability call. Sometimes we'll be on calls till 10, 11 at night, and just whatever to make it happen, and just realizing that, wow, I think this is really going to happen, and this isn't going to be easy, and it's going to take a lot of time and effort, but I think we're going to be able to break through in this market at some point.
Do you mind if I share my breaking out story, or knowing when I could
No,
do it?
I'd love to hear it.
So it wasn't even the first deal. The first deal was like, wow, this is great. I can't believe we just bought a 25-unit property. It was with Jake and my brother, and that was super exciting. But it's only $600,000 deal. This is years ago, and we got 10% owner financing, and it worked out well. But I didn't know if I could do this full time. I didn't know if I could just say, wow, I'm in the real estate now, because I had bought a couple smaller properties, and it's 25 units. I'm saying, this is great, but what's next? As a goal setter, what's next? It was our third deal, and I remember negotiating it for 5 months, going through the pain. And it was a mom and pop, getting the financials. And it's February 14th. It's Valentine's Day up in New York. And we're supposed to be signing this deal. Jake is in Knoxville. There's 2 feet of snow the day before. And I'm shoveling the driveway at the restaurant because we've got to open. It's February 14th. That's the time we make money in the winter. The only time. And I'm thinking, here's my W-2 job where I can't even open on the busiest day of the winter. And I'm doing a $4 million transaction here. And my partner, Mike, is going on vacation, and he's not wiring his money in. Is he going to get his money in? And I'm stressing out. And then when that deal closed, I said to myself, I think we can do this full time. And it took another 2 years to actually leave the restaurant. But that was the moment. That deal solidified it for me, saying, I'm here. I can't believe it. And that was actually the time when we closed that deal that all of the moving parts started working for me, and saying, Jake, let's write a book. Let's start a podcast. Because after that deal, we started getting into unit turns. It was 80% occupied. We started filling up the residence. We started raising the rents, and I saw the model, and I saw the whole Jake and Gino buy right, manage right, finance come together. And that was the moment when you said to yourself, a really deal that you're overreaching, and should I be doing this? So for everybody out there thinking that, wow, it's going to take a long time. It may not. But for me, it was like that third deal was like the stepping stone. And like I said, the first deal was really, really important, because you either do 0 deals or you do a lot of deals in real estate. And that first deal always gets you to the next and to the next. But that third one was really powerful. So I just wanted to share that with you. It was wondering if you had any inflections, even that first deal you've done. Wow. It just clicks, right? It just, something just happens, and you just change your whole paradigm in life changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, see what I really believe in the power of momentum. And I look at like your story, and it took you guys 18 months to find a deal, and then the next deal was like 3 months after that, right?
Yep.
And there's just something in the universe about like the power of the momentum that you create, and the energy that's out there. So I really think that it's going to create a snowball effect. And we closed on the property, and the next day we had our first meeting with our property manager, our first weekly meeting. And it just, I haven't even seen the property in person. So maybe when I set foot on the property I'll have that moment, but it just seemed like it's a very nostalgic moment, but it just went right into, okay, now it's asset management. And now this is now the game really starts. So it hasn't happened for me yet, I don't think. So I'm excited for what the future holds.
So we haven't discussed your spouse. What did your wife think about you getting into multifamily? And has she been supportive?
Well, she thinks I'm crazy, but she is supportive.
I mean, my wife thinks I'm crazy too. I mean, every wife thinks their husband's crazy, right?
Yeah. And I'm just kind of a go person. And I've always been like that. And we're very different in that aspect. And she's more of a homebody, and that's how she kind of gets energized. And for me, it's going out and just being a part of the world and doing a bunch of different things. So when I let her know that this was something I was looking into, and this would be a huge commitment because I'm not subtracting anything from my plate. I'm just adding basically starting a business onto a very busy lifestyle already. But she, we have a very good trust. We have a great trust rapport, and she believes in me. So we have the same goal, and when I share about the end goal and reasons why, which she is a huge part of that, she gets it, and she believes in She is totally willing to accept my craziness, and she is such a team player. She wants nothing to do with real estate. Like, kind of like Julie, it's just not her cup of tea. She's a hairstylist, and she doesn't really care about anything real estate related. But without her, possible, because she has to pick up so much slack at home. She's taking our son to daycare right now. She's, putting the lunch together on the late nights that I have doing meetups or whatever. She has to be there. So she is such an integral part of the team. So I wouldn't be able to do it without her. And I think that there's different relationships, like with people coming in from different walks of life and different types of relationships. Even if your spouse isn't going to in the real estate, they have to be on board with what you're doing, and you have to have transparency with them.
I love that. Let's talk about the deal real quick. How did you guys find the deal, and what did you like about the deal?
So we were really struggling finding deals that were even worth doing a deep underwriting on through brokers. Both of these markets are insanely hot markets. Stuff comes up, it flies off the shelf, getting asking price or more, and the asking price is already pretty astronomical. So we decided to switch up our strategy and go direct to seller. And we had one of the members of our team, wholesaler in Phoenix, and he also works in Tucson. So he had some mailer campaigns going out. We pulled some lists, started doing, and we landed the deal through a cold. And it's a 1978 build. So we liked that it wasn't, it kind of avoids the CapEx tsunami that we had been a little bit afraid of. There's so much older inventory. So we kind of assumed that we were going to get into something that was more 60s, early 70s build. But the structure on this is really good, and it's in a decent part of town. It's a C-class apartment, it's workforce housing, but it's not in a war zone by any means. It was 100% occupied. It was about 20% below. We saw a lot of upside right off.
Now that you've gotten the deal, what is the next step for you?
So it's been about 2 months that we've been in on it, and we really wanted to get everything on point as far as understanding our roles and responsibilities and getting a feel for how we work as a team and working with the property management team. And now that we feel that we've kind of got that straightened out, we're looking to get back into acquisition mode. So a couple of deals that we're analyzing right now, and still looking at Colorado Springs as well, and want to scale up and I really wanted to get into a deal as a JV first, and really wanted to have my capital at risk for any initial mistakes that could be made. Felt confident about our numbers, about the deal. Really wanted to do a deal just on our own first, but we have some capital that we want to bring in from some investors and really get into some syndications.
So have you shared this opportunity with others now? Do other friends and family members see that you're in real estate, and what is their reaction to it?
Yep. So one of the big things for me has been being more intentional and with just telling people what I'm doing. And I had before I got involved in real estate, I was never a big social media guy, but I've been putting up some videos just kind of explaining my journey. I've had some people come out of the woodworks that I would never expect to ask some questions about it. And I think that there's so many people that have dealt with or are dealing with what I was going through in the analysis paralysis, and say, hey, I would love to do that, but I know that there's no way that I can. So maybe I'll revisit that 10, 20 years down the road. And if I can share with some people what my story is and let them know that it's maybe not as daunting as you think, and there are ways to get involved. Even if you have limited time, limited capital, limited resources, there are ways to get involved. And it's just a matter of finding out what your goals really are and getting crystal clear on that, and trying to find a strategy and the right team that will help you get there. So if there's anything that I can do to help people in my circle do that, that's kind of been my primary focus.
So before we get to the short answer questions, somebody's listening to this and going, you know what, I like multifamily. What should I be doing? What are the next steps that I need to be taking to get into multifamily real estate?
Well, if anyone's been listening to the podcast, it's going to sound a little bit cliche, but the old adage of education times action equals results, it is the formula. We can try to overcomplicate things. but let's just keep it simple. And that's what it is. You have to, like, I was talking about activity versus action, and I was just out and about all this different real estate, quote unquote, activity, but not really taking any direct action. And I wasn't really educated. So to really lock in on, I think it's the whole idea of reverse engineering and sitting down, whether it's creating a vision board or creating just a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, and say, this is where I want to get. And then peel that back and say, in 5 years, this is where I want to be. So in 3 years, this is where I'm going to have to be. In 1 year, this is where I'm going to have to be. 3 months, etc. And then find out what is the strategy within real estate that will help you get there. If you're looking for passive income, I would say rental real estate and multifamily is absolutely the way to go. So if you've decided on that, it's okay. How do I get involved in that? How do I really get educated? You can read up on blogs. You can, I learned a lot from doing that, from listening to podcasts. But for me, actually, just as we talked about, actually joining a community of like-minded individuals and setting up that accountability piece. So you're forcing yourself to push past your comfort level is absolutely what you need to be doing. So find out. And I did a lot of research. I did a lot of due diligence. I was looking for dirt on you guys, and I just couldn't find any. And I had several conversations with Josh, and I remember talking with him and saying, I need to figure out this fix and flip first. I need to close on this. And I remember calling him when I had closed on that fix and flip and saying, Josh, I literally just am coming from the closing table. Let's do this. And it was just this leap of faith that I've done all this research. I've done all this, all this due diligence, but it's still a leap of faith. It's still something that it was just so hard for me to do, but something in me finally just said, what you're doing is not working. So I think you have to get in enough pain before you're really willing to push past that. So, I think that would be my recommendation, is find your pain point.
I love that. Let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsors. Are you looking for ways to improve your life?
Here at Jake and Gino, our mission is to empower students through financial education and the vehicle of multifamily investing.
Yes, Jake. We agree that a person with financial intelligence can change the world for the better.
We've created our proprietary 3-step framework, buy right, manage right, and finance right, that we teach to our community. This framework, along with education, our one-on-one mentorship, on-site boot camps, and the amazing community, has propelled our students to massive success.
We've all been there. We've had so many students that have been able to shift their mindset, overcome limiting beliefs, and set a clear path to achieve their goals. Whether you're currently fixing and flipping, wholesaling, or buying single-family rentals, and you know that multifamily investing is the right vehicle for you, I encourage you to visit jakeandgino.com/apply to schedule your complimentary consultation with our team. And I want to let you know this isn't a high-pressure sales call. It's really just a discovery call to get to know each other better and see if we're a good fit for working together. And if for any reason we're not a good fit, our team has tons of resources we will share with you to help you along your journey.
If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels, go to jakeandgino.com/apply and schedule your call now.
All right, Jesse, I got some short answer questions here for you. So
Sure.
What would you say your best habit for success is, and why?
I would have to say consistency. And, there's a lot of talk about the morning routine and really getting up and providing some consistency with how you start your day. I think the first 30 minutes of my day is probably the most important because, I think I wake up and I don't have this mentality of like, what can I bring? Like, you wake up and we're a selfish society. It's a selfish world that we live in. And I think it comes down to, how do I break that cycle and turn this into what can I bring as opposed to what can I get? So I think it's really important to find a morning routine, whether that's, physical exercise, some kind of routine with setting your intentions and being intentional, a lot of prayer, meditation. A lot of people kind of get into that. So finding that really sets the tone for the rest of the day.
Listen, I love that. What about your favorite book you've ever read?
So right in line with that, it's going to be The Go-Giver, and I'm reading it for a second time right now. And it was a suggestion from you guys, and it really is just about flipping the switch and changing your mindset. And there are so many go-getters out there. There are so many people that are hungry, that are on the grind, that are willing to do whatever it takes to build what they're looking to build. But when you really switch that to a go-giver mindset, you say, what can I bring? And the more value that you bring and the more people that you're able to touch and change their lives, you will in turn receive more. So that book is and it's very simple. It's a very simple narrative. It's a short read, and it's a game changer.
Man, I love that. All right, last question. You mentioned you had a lot of limiting beliefs. What's the formula to shatter limiting beliefs?
I think it really comes down to your network and being around people that have experienced similar thing and can show you the roadmap what they really did to break that. Because I knew intellectually, I knew that I had these limiting beliefs. It wasn't about not being able to recognize that they were there, but it was about someone basically holding my hand and saying, look, I've experienced the exact same thing. And to hear the story about the restaurant and just where you were at with that, and then being able to just push through that. Like I need some direction and some guidance in my life, and so I think it's really important to be around people that have experienced that, but have also broken through that and walked through the other side.
Man, I love that. All right, so there's been some really good gold nuggets in this episode. A few things that stood out to me is really, Jesse, I saw the importance of having your spouse on board as you were talking about it and communicating it. And I think you conveyed it really well, right? They don't have to be actively involved in the business, but the goals that the business is going to achieve is for the family, and everybody's on board with that. So I think that's a huge recipe for success. And then the second one I saw was the power of the community, having like-minded individuals who are doing the same thing to help push and elevate you. Gino, what else you got to add to that?
Well, Josh, Jesse goes from a music business to pedicabbing to healthcare to medical imaging to heart scanning to multifamily. I said that in like 10 seconds, but his life's span been years and years and years and process in the making. And it's been amazing to watch. And when he joined the Jake and Gino community, he's in a difficult market. He had a lot of those limiting beliefs, and being part of a community, whatever community that is, whether it's a Facebook group, whether it's the Jake and Gino community, you're supposed to join these because you're supposed to have proximity to others that are doing what you want to be doing. And that's the important thing. And then learning, putting that education times action equals results. That's very, very important. That's the step 2 in the 7 steps of our journey. The first step is the epiphany. Jesse had that epiphany. He's like, okay, I've got somebody here now. I'm not the one that's accountable. I can't let this person down. Right? That's the first one. That's the epiphany. The second one is education, taking massive education. And that's just not reading blogs and listening to podcasts. That's actually doing deep dives and intentional learning, right? We have the learning zone and the performance zone. You need to spend time in your learning zone and learning, right? Then the third step is that taking massive action. What does massive action look like? Well, it's networking. It's going and doing property tours. It's underwriting deals. It's speaking to investors. It's going on underwriting pods and learning how to underwrite, and accountability pods, and having coaching calls. That's the massive action. And then once all that happens, being held accountable, the next one is actually getting your first deal. And that's what ends up happening. All those steps, and people will tell you, well, the deal just fell in my lap. Nothing falls in your lap. All of that hard work, all that education, that action will ultimately lead to the first deal, which will lead momentum to get into that next deal. So it's been a really cool story and a really cool transformation to see how he started. I could picture him on that pedicab over there doing it for years and riding and sweating and going, I don't think I'm gonna be able to pay the bills doing this. I like this, it's pretty cool, but I just don't see myself doing this when I'm 58 years old and I'm gonna be all tired and stuff, going into multifamily. So I just want to, thank Jesse for sharing his story and continued success. And I know you guys are going to rock it in the Jake and Gino community.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it so much. And thank you for everything you do. And I look forward to seeing you in April.
Boom. Jesse, real quick, how can the listeners get a hold of you?
Just reach out to my cell, give me a call, shoot me a text. I would love to chat about whatever. My number is 720-229-9899.
Boom. Listen, guys, if you like the show, please leave us a review. And until next time, let's make it a Movers and Shakers week. See ya, everybody.
Thanks, Jesse. Josh, thanks.
Take it easy, guys.